who've been joining me each week, you know by now that I'm doing a series of interviews with some amazing TV, radio, and film professionals who are sharing their stories about how they got into this business, the highs and lows, and what it means to work in this business. And also, they'll be giving some amazing advice, which is invaluable for everyone who wants to get a career in media. Now, I'm doing this series of interviews to create a resource for young people, the next generation of creatives, that's you, to get the first-hand experiences shared by these professionals and, get some inspiration from yourself to see how you can get a successful career in this industry. Now, for those of you not the next generation, but you're joining me anyway, welcome. And please feel free to share these interviews with whomever you think they might benefit. Now, it's time to introduce my guest. She's a series producer at Iranian TV speaking channel Manoto. She's also a filmmaker. Welcome, Tina Ghazimorad. Hi, Tina.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for having me, Samina.
No, you're very welcome.
I'm good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity.
No, thank you for joining me. Now, Tina, as you know, the whole premise of my series is to share with the next generation how to get into TV, radio, and film. So, naturally, my first question to all my guests is, one, how did you get into this business? And two, why?
So I studied filmmaking and TV both in Iran and UK, and I found TV as a powerful tool for shaping public opinion and making a lasting difference and educating. That is really important. And then from my experience, because I was living in Iran and then seeing the oppression and atrocities that were happening around me in Iran, I couldn't be indifferent and yet remain true to myself. So I decided to make a short film reflecting on that oppression and then disappearance of Iranian journalists at the time. So I basically brought the movie to UK with a great deal of difficulties because I didn't have a permission to shoot it in Iran. And then it was a great success. It was shown on London Film Festival, London Short Film Festival, and it was selected for Cannes Short Film Corner. But then the other thing that I wanted to mention is about my personal story that goes a bit back when I was young and 12 years old. I remember when I was 12 years old, my mom told me a story about herself and about her dream. She said she wanted to become a prime minister. Obviously, before the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran in 1979, she was young, she was working towards that. But then when she told me this story, I didn't believe it, to be honest with you. It was funny, I laughed, it seemed like a fairy tale to me because the whole environment that I was living in was telling me a different story about women who are not active in politics, it's not their place to be in politics. And then when I laughed, my mom could feel that I don't believe that. And she said, the moment that they can stop you, even from imagining something, it's the moment that you lost it. So I think that changed something in me, that triggered me. Maybe that actually helped me to follow the path, because what I'm doing right now is just helping my generation to be able to imagine the things that mainly the totalitarian or dictatorship regime doesn't let them to even imagine that is possible. So that became my mission.
Yeah, so what I like about what you're sharing with us is that you are using the visual medium as for political activism to also share the stories of the country in which you grew up and you knew best, which isn't the same anymore. It's inspirational and creating a platform for women to put themselves forward and do these creative things and share stories.
Absolutely. To be honest, mainly for me, rather than being in political activism, it's just giving them information. Be informative as much as it's possible, because freedom of speech is not possible in my country. People don't have access to free information. So that is the main part of my job, just to inform our audience or viewers and inspire them, as you mentioned as well, as much as possible.
So your TV channel, where does it broadcast to?
So Manoto TV we are a satellite broadcaster. So we broadcast to Middle East and Europe, and you can watch us even online in US as well.
Okay,
So
fantastic.
we had a huge number of viewership, more than 40 millions.
Wow, that's quite impressive. And so, with your role, you're a series producer at Manoto. Tell me, within Manoto, what does that role entail? And also, what does it mean for you to be able to tell the stories you want through the visual medium at the channel?
So as a series producer, it depends what type of show you're working on. I mean, at the moment, I am working on a political debate show, which is a weekly show and it's live. And what I'm trying to do that every week I need to come up with the subject that matters to the people most at that time. And then I come up with the subjects and I try to find guests who have different point of view. That is the most difficult part of the
Yeah,
job.
keeping a balanced debate during the show.
Exactly, that is very challenging, especially coming from my background, and also kind of control the debate, because you cannot imagine for 42 years people didn't have the opportunity to discuss what they think freely. So when they come on this show, they become so passionate, and it's like, it's not, we are not used to have that sort of conversation openly, and it's such a new thing for us. Obviously, it's like practicing for democracy
Yeah.
that we haven't been allowed to have for 42 years, and then to control these debates and to be able to listen to each other, even if we think differently. That's really challenging with this show, but I think we are achieving and we are educating just by we're educating our viewers just to be able to listen even if you don't agree, and that is the kind of a practice for democracy for
Yeah.
us.
No, that's fantastic. And, I've worked on many live shows. It can be very precarious, as you well know. So, do you want to share with those watching? They may well find themselves at some point working on a live show. It's not as easy as it looks.
No, not at all. It is very challenging, but it's at the same time, it is really rewarding as well, especially when it comes to our industry, because you can see if the show is live, you can see the feedback just live at the same time as you're doing the show. You can hear the feedbacks after the show. You're in this constant relationship with your viewers, and that helps a lot, even though sometimes it's really stressful and challenging for me. But then as soon as I get the messages and I see the impact that we are having, is so rewarding that you forget about all of those difficulties and challenges that you have.
And can you share what some of the challenges might be? Because, for those young people watching today who want to get into this business, they might, they've never worked on a live show. So just name me the top 3 challenges of working in live TV.
Again, that depends on type of the show that you do, but one of them for me with the debate show is just to control the debate and argument, especially because it's political. People are passionate about the stuff that they're talking about it, and then stay neutral. That is sometimes because you believe as an individual into something, but the thing is that you need to keep it to yourself. That
Yeah.
sometimes might be
But
challenging.
what about the technical side? Because clearly, if you have a live show and something goes wrong technically, that can be a nightmare. And then you have to kind of fix it whilst you're on air, right?
Exactly. So that is also something like a crisis management, because you need to think about all the scenarios in advance that might happen. For example, with the corona happened, our show, we have most of our contributors on Skype, and anytime, even all of the guests might get disconnected, and you need to be prepared on what you're going to do in that situation. I think just having a planning in advance, especially when it comes to live show, and being prepared for the disaster to
All
happen.
outcomes.
Exactly. You just need to plan it in advance, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Do you know what? It's great that you're sharing the pros and cons of it, but ultimately, it's a fantastic environment to work in live. It's adrenaline rush. It's really exciting, and then you've got to be so on your feet and ready to just deal with anything and everything that shows up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what you mentioned is actually so true, because you get used to that excitement. Whenever I'm not working on a live show, it's just different. When I'm working on a documentary, the whole process is different, because you don't feel like that adrenaline and that excitement that you have for the live show. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's a
that.
completely different pace of working, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. That direct relationship, that the direct connection that you feel with your audience and viewers is just different thing, different level of experience.
So now, Tina, I'd like to talk about Monoto TV station itself. It's one of many ethnic, and I use the inverted commas purposefully, channels in the UK that, it's a big broadcaster. Do you think, what are your thoughts on how the non-mainstream TV networks such as yourselves are perceived, maybe not to be at the same level of the mainstream?
No, it's I think non-stream mainstream channels, obviously they get more recognition because of the large investment, and at the same time they've been established for many years. But actually all the indications shows that their viewership is dropping, because I think people feel like they've got some sort of in their reporting, they are politically biased and try to show one point of view as the only valid point of view. I feel like people are tuning into more alternative options that shows them the variety of point of views.
Yeah. And also, I think, TV channels, non-mainstream TV channels can range depending on their budgets. Also, it's down to finances as well. If it's a very small channel, that output might be very basic, but with an organization like TV channel like Monoto, you have some huge shows. I mean, you have some universally syndicated shows such as Gogglebox, and obviously you have your in-house productions as well. Can you share with those watching today what kind of environment it is? Is it the same kind of production values, or if you don't have the production values? Because people tend to think, oh, ethnic channel or minority channel, maybe they don't work in the same way as the mainstream.
Actually, that's a good point you mentioned. Production is production. The language of production is an international language, I think, all across the world. There is nothing different. Actually, I mean, Manoto is not, it's a mainstream TV channel in Iran, back at home. But I think production is the same all over the world, and nothing is different. The challenges are the same. And the whole process and workflow is also the same, regardless of which background you're coming from, whether it's non-mainstream. You yourself, you were providing this, you were preparing this interview before we get connected, and then it takes you some time to just go through the technical checks. It's exactly the same process that we do here at TV when we want to record record an interview. So as you see, even an interview that you want to do on Zoom or online, it has the same process that takes you in the studio on TV. So it's the same.
Well, the reason I bring this up is, one, to bust the myth that alternative channels or alternative content producers have got some weird and wonderful way of working. Thank you so much for sharing that. Production is production. And also, to inspire young people to understand that you don't have to have the latest kit and everything to create content. You can pick up your mobile phones these days. They've got fantastic cameras, and get to work, get into production.
Exactly. You shouldn't concentrate on what you don't have, but you need to concentrate on what you have and how you can make the best out of what you have. this is not just some sort of advice or cliche advice that everyone is saying. I think I experienced it myself personally, and it's so true.
Yeah. So for those, there's many different pathways into TV, radio, and film. And today we're specifically talking about TV. And what I wanted to share with people, and I think you're doing a great job, with your series producing and everything. And this is why I wanted to invite you onto my show. My series to it is kind of a show to have you shared what it means to work via a different pathway. Now, for those young people watching today, many from all kinds of backgrounds and diverse communities, what does it mean? What would they need to know? What would they have to show and prove to work or get a job or even some sort of experience at Manoto?
The most important thing, Samina, communication is the key in our industry. Is really important, especially at our channel. We have people from all around the world, not only Iranians, but British people, as I mentioned, people from all around the world. So, and I know some of my colleagues, they're very talented. And very creative, but sometimes the problem is that because you need to work with a crew, international crew, your cameraman might be British, someone else's might be Spanish. The common language, obviously, that we use for this sort of production is English and Farsi, but communication is the key. So I would recommend them to work on that as much as is possible to become somehow fluent in English. That helps them a lot in working in this industry.
But for those who are fluent in English, what advice then would you give them in terms of if they want to take the path into being a producer?
So the thing is that as you mentioned, nowadays you have all the the training, whatever that you want is on YouTube. There's so many softwares. Self-improvement is the key. Don't think that always you necessarily need to be part of the production to learn. That is also very important, and you will get there. But before even getting there, you can just try to learn stuff even online, and then try to do things based on the things that you learn yourself as a kind of your showing your work example. If you want to, don't just wait to get into the business, but learn even before you get into the business, because everything nowadays is accessible.
Yeah, I have to share a little story with you. I learned video editing, and don't get me wrong, I'm no like super uber professional editor. I'm not
Oscar winner editor.
I'm not bad. I'm okay. I'm pretty good. But I learned pretty much anywhere I got stuck on YouTube. I'd just go to YouTube. It's just such a platform and a source of every bit of information you can ever hope to find.
Exactly. The same with me, actually. That's how I learned at least basic editing. And that helped me a lot when I applied for a job here. So don't wait to get the job. Start learning beforehand and prepare yourself.
Yeah. Create the opportunities yourself, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So share with me some more about Manoto. You do some big syndicated shows, like Gogglebox being one. Gogglebox is universally successful. So you do the Iranian version of that?
Yes, we do Iranian version of Gogglebox. We do Iranian version of Come Dine With Me, which was
fantastic,
very interesting. When we started it, it was a big deal. It's one of our most popular TV shows that we have. In terms of content, obviously it's different because the stuff that people watch for Gogglebox, they're content from Iranian TV channel. But as we mentioned, the production process of that is the same, it's universal. And this is a good example that you mentioned, because obviously Gogglebox is not, the format is not, Iranian format, it's the universal format. And it's not just only Iranian TV channel that does Come Dine With Me or Gogglebox. There's actually so many other, as far as I'm aware, so many other versions of it, Turkish version of it, so many other countries that do the same. And that suggests the fact that production is the same. doesn't matter. Maybe it's different in terms of content because you need to customize it according to your viewers, but the process of production is the same. As if you can learn it, you can apply it anywhere you go.
Yeah, I think that's the very key fundamental basis of universality in terms of production. So
Exactly.
Tina, before we wrap up, you've given some great advice today, but just to leave some extra advice, what's the best piece of advice you can give anyone watching today who wants to be wants to get into TV, radio, or film?
Yeah, there are two actually points that I wanted to mention, especially when it comes to storytelling as a producer. There is a difference between seeing things and observing things. There is a fundamental difference. If you see something doesn't mean that you observe it. When you observe it, observing is a mental process that involves visual and thought. As someone who wants to tell a story, to create a story, you need to observe things. You need to ask questions, even about the things that seems normal to you. You need to ask questions. You need to link the things that you might know. So I think a good producer needs to be able to observe but not see in order to be able to tell a story. And the other thing that I wanted to mention about work ethics, because sometimes I see, because of the challenges that we talked about, people get, demotivated about what they're doing. But what I did that it helped me a lot since I started to work at Manitou. I invested in my project, and I care as it's my own, not that project belongs to the company, or I do this for a company, because I was thinking about my own standard and where I set my own standard. And that's how your reputation is actually, you're creating your reputation as well. Just invest in your projects, care about it as it's your own, not for someone else's.
Yeah.
And just observe, not see.
Tina, great advice, and I love it. Be curious and be passionate about what you do, like it's your own project. Doesn't matter who you're doing it for.
Exactly.
Tina, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing some of your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, for all of those of you watching who have been inspired by Tina and want to be inspired by more TV, radio, and film professionals, then please join me each week when I'll do exactly that. I'll be talking to different people in different roles to give you some inspiration as to how you can kickstart your own career, and also to give you some ideas about, the different pathways available into this business, because there's not just one route, as Tina has evidently just shown us, So you can catch all my interviews across my social media platforms and on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also there's a little bell icon that you can click on YouTube, which will give you notifications of when I add details of a new interview, so you don't miss out on anything. It's been an absolute pleasure having Tina Ghazimorad join me today. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me and my guest. Thank you so much, and see you next time.